whether women are drawn to dark triad traits.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think and for the ladies, it's about retaining the man. Is what seems to be their obstacle. Retaining the man as in retaining the men they want.
Yeah.
Because it's easy for women to get men because of the primary reason why men tend to be after women. And women hold leverage over that because, sexual access is a woman's call. Do you know what I mean? We are living in the death of nuance because people don't appreciate that a conversation, or just because somebody's idea is controversial in itself doesn't mean we shouldn't dig into it and see if there's something to explore in it or some truth to be discovered in it.
Hello everyone, welcome back to an episode of the Breaking Point podcast. Today we are here with Mr. King, but that's not your real name. What's your real name?
My real name is King.
Your real name is King?
Yeah. I was born in Ghana.
Oh, of course.
So yeah, it's actually quite typical in Ghana where you get
yeah.
things like King, Prince, Promise, Destiny.
Yeah,
that kind
King is a dating coach specifically for women. Is that correct?
Primarily, yeah.
Primarily, that's a better word than specifically, yeah.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing that? And why did you get into that?
I've always been interested in human mating behavior, intersexual dynamics. So I've been essentially self-educating on it for a long time. And then I went through a period where I actually just let myself dive into it like a baptism of fire, where I just did an abundance of dating very deliberately for periods. And in that process, I started to notice a pattern. My friends would message me all the time, asking about dating advice, men and women. So in a very subconscious way, I had helped two cousins of mine get engaged by talking them through the dating process with the men they were seeing.
Yes.
And then I helped another female friend. And before I knew it, I noticed everybody's messaging me about this. So as I was sharing more and more of what I had learned, the lady started to say, you know what, put this online. We think there are women out there in the world.
As in your cousins?
No, the women, my friends.
Oh, your friends.
Put this online because we think there are other women who will benefit from this. So on America's birthday on 2024, I started a Instagram and TikTok page and started to essentially share what I was sharing with my friends.
Yeah.
And then 17,000 followers later, it turned into something that's now becoming a business.
Why women?
As I say, for me, initially, it began with me just helping my friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
My family, the bulk of my family is women. My granddad had 6 kids, 5 of them were ladies. And the bulk of my cousins are also women. So inevitably, in their dating experiences, they were who I was helping. But with the reason why I focused on women is not only did I see that I was helping my friends and family, but every male friend of mine was winning in dating. And usually what they would ask me about in terms of helping them to date was more about what do I say, what do I do to get the lady on the date? Because when she meets me, it will fly. And for the ladies, their struggles was not to get men, but to keep the men they want and to hopefully move it to commitment. So the bulk of my help was going towards the women, and the ladies were calling me much more than the men. And for the men, it was simple, sorted stuff. And for the ladies, it was more of a process to get them ready. So I figured it was very clear to me that women needed more help. And my female friend said, listen, the ladies need you, put it online. So that's how it started. Yeah.
I would say that that's not the average. That's not the general consensus of women finding it more difficult in dating.
Really?
Yeah, do you not think?
That's what I'm actually seeing more of is, a bit like how I said just a minute ago. For the men, it's about getting the girl.
Yeah.
Is what I saw. And for the ladies, it's about retaining the man. Is what seems to be their obstacle. Retaining the man as in retaining the men they want.
Yeah.
Because it's easy for women to get men because of the primary reason why men tend to be after women. And women hold leverage over that because, sexual access is a woman's call. Do you know what I mean? But keeping the man is where it gets a bit harder for women, is what my observation has been anyway. So, yeah.
Okay. And I think we have a mutual sort of friend who's been on the podcast, Stay Slick with Kit, big up.
Shout out to Kit.
And that would be his opinion as well, wouldn't it? That would be his conclusion.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah.
That women are, it's getting the girl. I would also say that it can be hard for a man to maintain, especially in the modern era, given how much opportunity there is and how we live in a culture of the grass is always greener. So what sort of man do women want then?
I think it's a combination of things because now, initially, how it started off was the primary duties for men was the 3 Ps: provide, protect, profess. Find a way to economically supply for her, find a way to protect her from the dangers in the real world, and profess to the world through either a ring or some sort of mate guarding ritual that she belongs to you. We now live in a world where women make their own money. So she doesn't need you to provide economically. And by virtue of that, she can buy herself protection. So she doesn't need men to do that. So the whole dynamic has completely flipped on its head, where the original duties of men is no longer what's required of them. And the question then becomes, well, what do we need men for? Which is what we're seeing in the world. So I think it's transformed into something being more internal, where women now have the luxury of dating or getting with men for love and for genuine value, as opposed to actively being in need of him. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You know the film Titanic?
Yeah, I do. I know it.
I was thinking the other day, one of the reasons why Titanic is such a popular film is because it plays on the two sort of archetypal pathways for women to take. They've got whatever he's called, rich family, which is potentially even more important than himself being rich, or etc. Yeah, stable, but he's like the definition of the tyrannical patriarch, or yeah, the oppressive. He's an embodiment of the oppressive patriarchy. Or she's got Jack, who is the complete opposite, who has no money, much younger, is a complete 180 from what her life has provided her with, but for whatever reason she truly loves him, and she's wrapped up in a romantic stereotypical story, fairy tale-esque, not fairy tale, that's the wrong term, but romantic adventure effectively. And she has to choose between those two, and I think that is like, that's a fundamental choice that women sort of make and have had to make historically, and it's one of the reasons. And now it's very confusing, because I think the framework in which people used to work from has been upended and it no longer exists. But do you understand what I mean about those two sort of pathways, and how that is a huge driving interest, I think, in the film, because unconsciously people, especially women, resonate with that because it speaks to them on some sort of level.
Absolutely. And mind you, even in modern day, there are women who will go for the original rich guy with the family and all
Yeah, of
sorted.
course, yeah.
And I think, like what you've said, what Jack represents for Rose is completely freedom from what she's used to, from a system that to her feels a little bit oppressive.
Yes.
And he's not there to impress her with money. And he's not there to impress her with, I'm this big, strong man who's about to protect you from the dangers of the world. However, what we see him do is bring a completely refreshing emotional experience for her, where she can actually fall in love with him, engage her emotions, go to underground parties in a boat where people are doing Irish dancing.
Yeah.
It's so removed from her life that inevitably her feelings get caught up in that more. And he gives her a bit of an adventure, and he's not scared to make a fool of himself.
No.
You know what I mean? So he represents something very, very different from the stiff upper lip original, with the previous guy.
Yes.
That was the option for her.
Yeah.
And I think inevitably she leans more towards the latter,
Yeah.
or the former. Yeah,
Do you think women are leaning more towards the former nowadays then?
still do.
Wait,
Yeah.
which one was the former again?
As in Jack
Jack.
being the
Okay.
free-spirited
Okay,
one,
yeah,
and the more upstanding patriarchal archetype.
Yeah.
I think women want ideally women want something that's in the middle.
Yes.
Because it's a bit like the whole human mating behavior idea, that women generally seek good genetics on one hand and they seek parental investment on the other hand. And investment is the whole good job, stable, secure, and good genetics is pure carnal animalistic desire. I really like this guy. And that's highlighted through being attractive and also being free-spirited and all the good personality stuff. And I think what we see a lot of is, during the peak fertility years for a woman, she leans more towards the good genes candidate. And usually when she starts to get to later life where she's prioritizing settling down, she starts to lean more towards the investment archetype. But in a perfect world, women will get both sides of that mating equation in the singular guy. And
Yeah.
that seems to be harder. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think there's a level of narcissism attached to the good genes man, especially in the younger years, that women are drawn to? Or do you think, because so you, right at the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned psychology. So that's something I wanted to, because I've got in a bit of trouble recently for some of the things I've said on these sorts of podcasts. So I was trying to keep it, I'm going to try and keep today a little bit more psychologically, theoretically based, as opposed to real world, making bold claims, etc., etc. But we can definitely talk about I mean, you can say whatever you want, but we can definitely talk about psychology, because that's really interesting. So the dark triad. There's
Yeah.
well-established evidence that particularly young women desire men who are higher in dark triad, although I think it's actually the dark tetrad now, because sadism has been added to the trio
Interesting.
into a quartet, which is
Yeah.
potentially one of the worst ones. So, do you encounter that? Why do you think that is? I think you clearly he's a very well-spoken man, ladies and gentlemen. I'm slightly taken aback.
I try.
So,
Yeah, feel good.
let's go. What do you think?
Whether women are drawn to dark triad
Yeah.
traits? Absolutely. But I think it's not something to blame women for. I think it's very human
Mhm.
because the dark triad are also the very things as a society that we reward our leaders for. The fact that Donald Trump is a president, for example,
Mhm.
and at the risk of getting myself in trouble talking about him, but the reality is the people that we seem to hail up the most are the people who dared to center themselves around it, center the universe around them.
Yeah.
And that's a bit narcissistic. And the whole Machiavellian idea of I'll do whatever it takes to win. It doesn't matter who I
We
need
have
to
to
screw over a
step
little
on.
bit. Now, at face value, that looks very demonic. It's not something we want to get behind. But really and truly, if our nation was in danger and we had a leader that will do whatever it takes to win, that's who we need. So without even realizing it, as human beings, men and women, we are drawn to the dark triad. It's just about whether or not it's healthy. Because I believe it's a spectrum. I don't think it's just you're either dark triad and bad or you're not that and good. I think it's a sliding scale. And I think ideally you don't want someone who's at the extreme end of all of it, but someone who hovers in a healthy dose of it. For example, I've made peace with my own relationship with the dark triad. Do you know what I mean? It's like the whole idea of human beings are self-protecting. If danger hit the world right now, our natural instinct is to self-preserve. That doesn't make you a narcissist that you want to save yourself. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of think it's an interesting conundrum. But back to the question, are women drawn to it? Absolutely. There's something incredibly seductive about it. Because in the world where many people are intimidated by beauty or they're corrupted by their desire for sexual access, that they don't mind risking their self-respect, narcissistic, Machiavellian, psychopathic men are not men who are going to pedestalize a woman. It's just a lot more integrated. And if anything, they believe the woman is lucky to be with them. And without even realizing it, it completely flips some kind of switch in the woman's mind that is a real turn on. Do you know what I mean? For what she's used to compared to experiencing a man high in the dark triad. And she can't help but be attracted to it. So on one hand, women will probably say that they don't like it. But judging by their behavior and what they respond to, it's actually quite clear that they do, in fact, like it. At least for short-term mating, certainly.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a key distinction.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning of that, you said something about how we sort of laud and applaud men who display signs of the dark tetrad. And I've been thinking about that. I've thought that for a while, actually. I've thought there's a massive bias in society in that the men who garner obscene levels of attention
Hmm.
are more often not men that display those attributes.
Hmm.
And that creates a huge bias and a inaccurate portrayal of it belies the reality of men and what the average man is like. Because in my opinion, the average man is exceptionally dutiful, is very compassionate towards the people he cares about.
Hmm.
Dutiful being he's dutiful, he's compassionate as a result of his dutifulness. But regardless, dutiful, compassionate, wants to provide, as you said, and is not an embodiment of those qualities. And yet society and like when you can stretch this out into the political realm, but just the cultural realm has bastardized
Hmm.
men as a result of these sorts of men. You look at you can't say his name anymore, but the bald man from Romania,
Oh, yes.
or
Mm.
Donald Trump, or there's this, have you you know who Clavicula is?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
I think he's an absolute idiot, but
well, yeah,
yeah.
regardless, but the men that rise to the top in society are often the worst kinds of men, and not always,
Yeah.
but as you said, there's something about we're drawn because
Mm.
fundamentally oh god, this has been very chaotic. But I'm very Hobbesian in my, you know, Hobbes the philosopher.
No.
So Hobbes believed. So there are two philosophers who had there's not just two philosophers, but in this context, there were two sort of prominent philosophers who had completely differing views on humanity and humankind. I think it was Rousseau. Rousseau believed that man in the state of nature was we were fundamentally peaceful creatures. We got on with each other very well, and it was society that corrupted and maligned who we were. Hobbes believed the complete opposite. Hobbes believed that human beings were, the Hobbesian quote is, "Man in the state of nature is short, brutal, and something like that."
Mm.
But it was basically we were pretty animalistic, and it
Mm.
was society that regulated us, and without society, we would be at each other's throats. I lean toward more towards the Hobbesian viewpoint, but the consensus is fundamentally that they're both correct.
Yes.
We're both society and culture both corrupts and
Stabilizing.
stabilizes us in the same way that human beings are both fundamentally flawed and fundamentally redeemable.
Yeah.
But regardless, there is something about lionizing specific forms of men and how that creates a distorted
Mm.
perception of what men can be,
Yeah.
of what men are.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? Like
I do.
the average man who gets up to work, looks after his two kids, provides for his family, no one hears about that guy. That form of masculinity is never spoken about.
Right.
It's all that's spoken about is toxic masculinity.
Right.
And ironically, in a sort of psychological equilibrium point of view, the women that are publicly disdaining these sorts of men are personally fantasizing about them.
Yeah.
And that is a psychological truth that crops up every now and then. And it's really, there's no aspersions being cast, but it's something that should be understood slightly more and explored a bit more and just spoken about. But you can't have a nuanced conversation about it without immediately being branded a certain, oh, you're this, you're that, you're a follower of this person. It's like, well, we're living in who said, oh, I did a podcast with someone who said we're living in the death of nuance, and I thought it was brilliant.
That's a very true statement.
It's a very true statement.
We are living in the death of nuance because people don't appreciate that a conversation, or just because somebody's idea is controversial in itself doesn't mean we shouldn't dig into it and see if there's something to explore in it or some truth to be discovered in it. I believe in this.
Extracted out.
That's right. I believe that in this idea of eat the chicken and spit the bones.
What does that mean?
As in, I don't care if you hate me and you can tell me a lot of things about myself. I could either discard what you've got to say because I don't like what you represent, or I could actually just think about what you've got to say. Maybe there's something in there that's good for me.
Yeah.
I could take that, whatever in it that's useless, discard it. Do you know what I mean? So I believe in extracting what could be true, because if you just let the idea that, well, I don't like this person, so I'm not going to listen to whatever they've got to say, you're throwing away a lot of potential truth or useful gems for yourself, you know? But to touch on your point about women seemingly bastardizing dark triad men and publicly at least, and then secretly fantasizing about them. Can I tell you a story?
Yes, please tell me a
So,
story.
okay, I'm really thrilled that you're open to that, because when I first got on dating apps, anybody who's seen my episode with Stay Slick with Kit, I talked about it on there. When I first got on dating apps, I went on dates every day for a month and a half and did it in periods, and then some days 2 dates a day, right?
Wow.
And I was having an absolute easy time and was just enjoying myself. I had just come out of a relationship, was just being frivolous. In that time, what they call the body count, mine just went through the roof because I was just getting through everybody. And I didn't lie to anybody, didn't put anybody in a false sense of security of what I was looking for, but I was actively enjoying myself. In that time, some women were inevitably trying to be in a relationship with me. It's not what I wanted, but I still enjoyed them because I could. And they posted me on a website called Are We Dating the Same Guy? Oh. I've been posted in it across London, across Sheffield, a few other places. I don't care about it. It started with noble. That website started with noble intent, but it's turned into a cesspit of bitter wind.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they posted me in there and talked about, yeah, he's got at least 5 girls on rotation at any given moment. He's a red flag. He's all this stuff. And here's what's interesting. The more they posted me on there, the more women I got.
Yeah.
Strange phenomenon.
Yeah.
Because as a matter of fact, the first time I was posted in there, I took a break from dating apps. And yet I had more women from in-person meetups than I did from the previous month of dating apps. Bizarre. And I remember having a chat with my friend where this lady friend of mine, and I said, isn't that weird? That you would think that that would cock block me for argument's sake. And she said, yeah, but it's because women don't know that we're not like men. That, for example, if a man took a woman's picture and put it in a group chat and said, she's a red flag, stay away from her, guys would probably stay away from her.
Yeah.
But if women put a man's picture in there and say he's a red flag, that's highlighting his desirability. Because if you're all saying, oh yeah, he's always got girls around him, you're all validating that he's desirable enough to have the girls.
Yeah, exactly.
And that makes women actually want to indulge more. So I found that for me, when they posted me in that website, that Facebook group chat or whatever, it got me more women,
Yeah.
contrary to what one would believe it would do.
Yeah.
Right. Now, of course, I took some legal action to get it taken down because that I wasn't into that, and some of it was lies. Excuse me.
Fair enough.
But the point is, what I imagine the ladies who posted me in there thought it would do, it did the opposite. So again, on one hand, women might say, I don't want a red flag. But in practice, they kind of like them
Yeah.
a bit.
Well,
Yeah.
dating coaches will recommend the concept of like social proof and how that's one of the most valuable male dating coaches, at least, one of the most valuable techniques in order to attract more women. I feel like we should talk a little bit about you, to be fair, before we get into more of the questions.
Sure.
What were you born in Ghana?
I was, yeah. So I was born in Ghana, lived out there for the first 13 years of my life. And then I moved to England when I was 13. Unfortunately, my biological father abandoned my mom when she was pregnant with me.
Yeah.
The story has come full circle. He's come and apologized to the whole family. So me and him are good now. I
Oh,
see him
good.
every year. But my mum, my maternal family took care of me so my mum could go back to uni and get her life back together.
Yeah.
Then she got a scholarship to King's College, and that's how she moved to the UK.
Well,
She met my stepdad, who's a wonderful man. I've got 2 stepbrothers through him. Yeah, very, very happy family in that setup. And
that's
then
why
when
you're
I
so
was,
smart.
yeah,
I went to King's College.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's one of the things actually she would use to, I guess, encourage me in the moments when I missed her.
Yes.
Is that she was going to a school she's going to my school, it's King's College, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was one of the ways in which she kind of kept us, because we had dreams together
Yes.
about the life we wanted to live after my father abandoned us
Yeah.
originally. And then at 13, she moved me to the UK to join her and my stepdad. So yeah, that's kind of how that process began.
And
Yeah.
I suppose B, in the context of dating, but also ages generally, how did you find the difference in culture from Ghana to the UK?
Oh, it was a big shock, man. I can't
Yeah.
even lie. Because obviously the first thing was the weather. It
Oh,
felt like
God, yeah.
walking into a fridge outdoors because it's
Literally.
so cold. But
Wet
culturally,
fridge.
yeah, I found Ghana was a lot more disciplined as a culture, as in you couldn't swear at teachers, for example, in school, and you had to be very respectful of the elderly. Whereas in the UK in schools, that's not what I saw embodied. And in Ghana, they would literally whip you if you did disrespect your teachers. They would call you out front and literally hit you with a cane in front of everybody. And in the UK, the best you could get was a detention. And I was like, who's going to learn from that?
Yeah.
Go sit down for half an hour in a silent room? How's that going to punish anybody?
Yeah.
But so that was a bit of a shock to me. But I took the education very serious because in Ghana, it's the
Yes.
way out of nearly all forms of poverty.
Of course.
And of course, in the UK, there's a lot more options and choices, paths to go down. But I took the education very serious because of my experience in Ghana. But yeah, culturally, that was the big difference.
And I guess you were a bit young when you moved here, but well, what are the sort of codes and conventions of dating and marriage in Ghana?
Mm. In Ghana,
Religion, of course.
religion plays a huge role. And I'm Christian because of that. I'm raised in a Christian family, Pentecostal Christian, and some of us are Baptist. But essentially, the Bible and its tenets play a huge role. And in Ghana, the 2 main religions are Christianity and Islam. And both of those religions have very specific ways in which you find your life partner. So there is an order to it working, as opposed to just go out there and just date whoever and then marry somebody. There's kind of an order and an alignment based on faith to the process. So that's how it is in Ghana. Whereas what I found is here, even though one would say Christianity is at the heart of the nation because even the national anthem says God save the Queen,
It's not.
it's not really the fundamental thing in the UK. Most people are atheist, it's, at least in my experience. So it's a bit different here with the whole dating landscape because people just go with the flow. And for example, here, engagements, you just take the lady out, you get on one knee, you pop the question. In Ghana, you have to go see her parents to get engaged. You don't get engaged somewhere and come home and tell your parents you're engaged now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to tell the parents before the engagement is once the parents agree that the engagement can happen. Do you know what I mean? So it's different. Yeah.
And they say, don't they, did you get the dad's blessing? That's the sort of stereotypical
That's
question.
huge in Ghana.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah.
Huge. Yeah.